Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a huge shift that's happening right now in the world of wealth management. We're going to explore how artificial intelligence is giving financial advisors what are basically superpowers, turning their work from total information overload into pure, actionable insight.
So to really get what's happening, you've got to understand the problem first. Just try to picture a senior financial advisor. Every single day, their inbox gets absolutely flooded with over 200 different industry reports, market analyses, and research papers. Think about that. That is a staggering amount of reading. And you know that fire hose of data? That's only half the battle. Because on top of all that research, these advisors are also managing hundreds of individual clients. And each one has their own unique goals, different portfolios, and very specific questions that, demand a personalized answer. So you have to ask, how on earth is one person supposed to keep up with all of that and still give every client the kind of deep, tailored service they deserve? Well, the honest answer is they can't. The old way of doing things, manually digging through stuff with Excel, it's just completely broken. It's hit a total wall, creating this massive cognitive bottleneck.
Okay, but this is where generative AI steps in and just completely changes the game. And look, let's be super clear here. This is not about replacing advisors. It's about augmenting their intelligence, giving them something like an external brain to do all the heavy lifting. It's a total paradigm shift. So let's dive into how this actually works.
All right, superpower number one, conquering that daily data flood. This is all about taking that mountain of research and shrinking it down into something you can actually use.
I mean, just imagine it. You take this whole library's worth of financial reports, and poof, it's all distilled down onto a single summary page. That's the power we're talking about here. Instantly, hours, maybe even days of mind-numbing reading just disappear.
So how does this magic happen? Well, the tech behind it is called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. In simple terms, it's a super smart AI that can read your firm's entire internal knowledge base. We're talking thousands of documents in seconds. And here's the key part. It's not just doing a keyword search. It actually understands the context to give you a really precise answer. So now an advisor can ask these really complex, layered questions. Something like, based on the latest reports, what's the specific advice for my client's energy stocks considering the current interest rate outlook? And bam, they get an instant synthesized answer that pulls from all those different sources. What used to take hours of painful manual work is now done in a heartbeat.
But get this, it gets even cooler. The analysis goes way beyond just text. The AI can actually process video and audio, picking up on these subtle human signals. For instance, it could listen to an executive's tone of voice on an earnings call and flag that they sound uncertain, even when the words on the transcript look perfectly fine. This gives the advisor a whole new layer of insight, helping them spot what's really going on behind the numbers.
Okay, so that's how AI tackles market data. Superpower number two is all about turning that same intelligence inward, to truly understand the client. You know the old way, right? Static forms, maybe filled out once a year and then forgotten in a file? Well, the new way is totally different. It's a living, breathing, dynamic profile.
So here's a real-world example of how that might play out. The AI is ethically monitoring public info, and it sees a client mentioned on social media that they're involved with a new startup. Fast forward a year, the AI catches some news about a potential IPO for that company, and boom, it sends an alert to the advisor, hey, your client might be about to have a major liquidity event, you should probably talk to them about a family trust. See? It's a total shift from being reactive to being truly proactive.
So when you combine this deep understanding of the market with the deep understanding of the client, well, that brings us to superpower number three, crafting perfectly personalized strategy on demand and for every single client.
Now, an advisor can just plug in a client's goals, and the AI instantly pulls from the firm's entire playbook to build a complete plan. It automatically weaves in all the complex stuff, hedging for risk, optimizing for taxes, running different what-if scenarios. The days of one-size-fits-all are just over.
And this whole system is alive. It's dynamic. Let's say the Fed drops a surprise rate hike and the market goes nuts. Instead of spending the next few days scrambling to figure out who's affected, the AI can stress test every single client portfolio in just minutes. This lets the advisor get on the phone immediately with solutions, not just, hey, here's what happened. It even works during client meetings with this awesome feature called the Sales Copilot. So the client is talking and the AI is listening in the background. The client says something like, I'm getting a little worried about my international stocks. Instantly, on a private screen only the advisor sees, the AI serves up compliant data, some alternative product ideas, and key talking points. The advisor can respond right then and there with total confidence and a data-backed answer.
It's incredible.
Okay, so these superpowers are obviously amazing, but at the end of the day, they're just tools. The real question is, why? What's the point of all this? And that's what we're going to talk about now, bringing it all back to the human at the very center of all this tech.
And this isn't some far-off futuristic dream. There's a really practical roadmap to get there. Firms can roll this out in stages. First, build the smart research tool, then deploy the sales copilot, and then set up the dynamic risk agents. And look at the results here. These aren't fuzzy ideas. We're talking about real measurable wins, like cutting down reading time by 70%, or turning response times from hours into seconds.
But here's the most important thing to remember. All of this technology, it's not about getting rid of the human connection. The real goal isn't to replace our conversations, but to make those conversations so much more valuable. The whole point is to fundamentally change what an advisor's job is.
Think about it. By taking all that tedious, soul-crushing data mining off their plate, we free up the advisor to do the things that only a human can do. Things like showing empathy, building real trust, having those deep, important conversations about a client's dreams, their family, their future. It really elevates the advisor from just a portfolio manager into, a true life guide.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. When we give advisors these incredible superpowers, what will we finally have the time to talk about? It really points to a future where financial advice might just become more human than it's ever been. Thanks so much for tuning in.